The following podcast contains explicit language and adult subject matter suitable for mature audiences only. Listener discretion is advised. Are you looking for joyous and inspiring stories about pregnancy and birth? Full disclosure, you will not be hearing those types of stories here. This true crime podcast will reveal the bizarre, crazy, and sometimes criminal real-life experiences while working at the labour and delivery unit. Our stories share the nurse's point of view. So get ready as we stir things up with the Stirrup.
Welcome to Episode 5 of the Stirrup podcast. I'm your host, Joanne Murray, and next to me is my brother from the same mother, Kevin Michaels. Say hi, Kevin.
Hi, everyone.
I'm sorry for the delay between episodes. We had to take a break from podcasting. Did you do anything fun this summer, Kevin?
Yeah, I took my son down to Florida. We went to Universal. Ep5.
Oh, sounds like fun.
Did the whole Disney thing down there. Then also went to go visit our dad in Fort Lauderdale.
Oh, yeah, our dad, Mr. Mike.
Yep.
Our dad is 88 years young. Miss you, Dad. Love you.
You were away as well, weren't you?
That's right, Kevin. I went to New Orleans this summer. I had to attend the conference of the Association of Women's Health and Obstetric and Neonatal Nursing. I'm a member of this organization. It's called A1. That's the abbreviation.
A1, okay.
It was a very informative conference, but man, it was hot in New Orleans. 110 degrees every day. It was brutal. I know I saw the devil dancing on the sidewalk down there.
Well, that kind of heat is like living on the surface of the sun.
Exactly. I've also been obsessed with this summer with the fact that they finally caught a suspect in the Gilgo beach murders. Living in Long Island, it's been terrifying knowing that there is a serial killer running around burying people on the beach where we like to go during the summer. I'll tell you one thing, I have never gone to Gilgo Beach because that's where they found 11 bodies buried. And just knowing that this serial killer is running around, could be one of our neighbors. I mean, Kevin and I, we were raised in Long Island. We still live in Long Island. So it's always been in the back of our heads that, there is a lurking danger out there.
Yeah, I wasn't going to Gilgo Beach anyway. I don't go to beaches in New York.
We have great beaches out here.
Yeah. So I'm glad Nassau County Police finally got their shit together and caught this bastard.
Me too. Thanks to Rodney Harrison, the new police commissioner for Suffolk County. He was able to form a special task force about a year ago that finally arrested 59-year-old architect Rex Heuerman from Massapequa, Long Island. They were able to match DNA from his wife's hair that was found on 3 victims' bodies in 2011. 11 bodies were found buried in the same area, but police believe he's been killing since 1996.
Wow. And just because they found his burial site doesn't mean he stopped killing.
Of course not. He probably just moved on to another state and left his bodies in different areas. They did find out he had a luxury condo in Las Vegas, and Las Vegas had a string of victims out there that they're looking into him for. His wife, she would go and visit her family in Iceland, which is where she's originally from. So it seems like whenever she went on these trips, that's when he would start his killings.
I didn't even hear that part about Iceland.
Yes. Trust me, I've been doing a deep dive into this case.
I heard police thoroughly searched his house in Massapequa.
Oh, yeah. And they found over 200 200 guns in his home. Who needs 200 guns?
That's a lot of killing.
You know?
And they're all red flags all over this case that they ignored.
They found a soundproof vault in his house. They found these crazy dolls he had there. I mean, it was just nuts. I don't know how his wife and kids did not expect anything suspicious was going on in their home. All the neighbors described him as being weird. He could be seen digging in his backyard at 2 a.m. and burning garbage every week.
Yeah, and no one burns garbage in a neighborhood like Massapequa.
Oh,
his wife must
not.
have been dumb, deaf, and blind.
Mm-hmm. He would even discuss the murders with his coworkers and escort dates he would go on. These escorts are now coming out saying that he would talk about the murders to him like he was there when it happened, and it would scare them to death to the point where they wouldn't even continue the date with him.
Oh, wow. I didn't hear that part either.
I even heard that his wife, Asa Ellathrop,
a.k.a. Big Dummy,
she filed for a divorce just a couple of days after her husband was arrested. What does that tell you?
Yeah, it definitely sounds like she suspected something, and then she saw this little opportunity here, and she jumped on it without hesitation. But if you knew something this whole time, well, how come you didn't say nothing?
Exactly. That's what I have an issue with. Because a lot of these cases, you see these serial killers that have these families, it takes a while for their families to wrap their heads around the fact that their loved one is this serial killer. But not Miss Asa. She filed up for that divorce real quick.
Real quick. She knew he was burning something other than garbage out there.
I'm sure she saw the red flags but chose to ignore them, which also upsets me when I find out that they started a GoFundMe account for Asa and her kids.
To the kids, yeah. Yeah, I did see that.
It was started by another serial killer's family member daughter. I think it was B2K's daughter that started this GoFundMe for her. Supposedly she's going through chemo treatments for cancer. Her and her kids are now living in that house in Massapequa that's completely torn apart.
It's torn apart, yep.
And yes, I do feel bad, but not bad enough to give my hard-earned money to someone who may have turned a blind eye to the fact that her husband was going out there killing dozens of women.
Yeah, I'm going to just keep my hands in my pockets. I tell you one thing, it's surreal listening to all these podcasters and news reporters mispronounce Massapequa over and over again.
I know. Being from Long Island, we have a lot of towns that have some really difficult names to pronounce. There's even memes out there about it. You know you're from Long Island when you can pronounce words like hop hog.
Hop hog, Massapequa, Sawanica.
For our Stirrup listeners, I plan on keeping you updated on this case because, you know, we're from Long Island and it's very close to home.
Yep, right in our own backyard. How could we not cover it?
Now it's time for our true crime case of the week, Leatrice Brewer. This week, we're going to change things up. I'm calling this case, which also, by the way, takes place in Long Island, a combo episode. From time to time, my L&D tales will involve situations related to a real-life crime story that you'll find in today's headlines.
So you mean you've been involved in true crime stories while working?
Yep. This case is one of my scariest situations I've ever been in. So let's get started with our first combo case ever, the story of Leatrice Brewer. In February 2008 in Newcastle, New York, which is in Nassau County, Long Island.
Yeah, even though we live in Nassau County, I haven't really been to Newcastle.
Yeah, me either. But you know me. Unless there's a really good shopping mall in that area, I usually don't have a reason to visit.
Right.
27-year-old Leatrice Brewer had a painful childhood growing up in Newcastle. It was filled with financial struggles and periods of abandonment. She was the eldest child of Pearlie Mae Mickens, who was known to struggle with drug addiction and mental illness. Pearlie spent most of Leatrice's childhood in jail or admitted to mental facilities. The available resources for the mentally ill were lacking for the poor. And most of the minorities are afraid to seek help because of the stigma in the African American communities attached to mental illnesses.
Yeah.
During her mother's absence, Leatrice and her younger brother would live with their grandmother, Mabel Mickens. Determined to succeed at something, in 1999, Leatrice graduated from Westbury High School. During high school, she was able to work after school in the maintenance department.
Oh, really? So wait. So she went to school during the day and then had to clean it at night?
Yes, she had to clean it at night. I guess it was a way for her to bring in extra income for her family.
I'd be yelling at them kids during the day like, yo, don't mess that up. I have to clean it up later.
True.
Pick that up. I'm not cleaning that up later.
According to police records, during this time, Leatrice had a couple of arrests for disorderly conduct. After graduation, Leatrice held several jobs, including a sales assistant, fast food restaurants, housekeeping, and a filing clerk for a law firm. Friends described her moody and her behavior a little bit off at times.
That could be a red flag.
In 2002, Leatrice met Ricky Ward. Ricky became the father of her first child, a little girl named Jewel. Ricky and Leatrice's relationship did not last long, and after giving birth, Leatrice developed postpartum depression. Leatrice felt that she was ill-prepared to become a mother and wasn't expecting it to be so difficult. During this time, Leatrice was arrested and charged with third-degree assault and second-degree criminal contempt and sentenced to 3 years probation.
Wow.
I couldn't find any records as to what the exact situation, what it involved.
Okay.
In 2003, Leatrice's mother, who was at the time known for panhandling and frequently reported hearing voices, she died of cancer. Leatrice was devastated at the loss of her mom. Even though they had a strained relationship, it affected her deeply. In 2004, Leatrice had her baby number 2 with a new man, Innocent Damezu. He was from Queens, New York.
His name was Innocent?
Yes, Innocent.
Man, he'd be my first suspect for everything. Your name is Innocent, and there's no way you're not guilty.
You know that's a red flag. We stand in front of a judge and your name is Innocent. You automatically look
guilty. Your name is Innocent.
In 2006, Leatrice became pregnant with her third child, also by Innocent Damezu. And that's when her grandmother kicked her out of the house.
Oh, wow.
Hey, she's an old woman. She can't take care of all these kids.
Your old grandma's like, I don't want all these kids in this house.
With the help of county caseworkers, Leatrice was able to move into an apartment at 819 Prospect Avenue. Leatrice also received rental assistance, food stamps, and help with childcare from the federal stipend that she was receiving. Family members noted a downward spiral of Leatrice during this time. She insisted on working and leaving her kids with a babysitter and at times by themselves. CPS had received 9 complaints made against Leatrice, accusing her of child neglect, failing to send the kids to school, and leaving them at home unattended. Because of this, she was ordered to attend a class to improve her parenting skills.
A class?
Yeah.
Just a class?
Just a class. Yeah, Kevin, you didn't know it only takes one class to learn how to be a parent?
That's crazy.
The Deputy County Executive for Health and Human Resources at the time was asked if caseworkers were trained to recognize when someone is mentally unstable. And she said, probably not. But being deemed mentally unstable is not grounds for losing custody of your kids.
What?
I know what you're thinking. I mean, not only was she mentally unstable, but they had proof that she was not a good mother to these kids. She was leaving them home alone. They weren't going to school. I know children are so vulnerable and need to be protected at all times and at all costs. Sometimes this means being protected from their own parent.
And I would think being a caseworker, you should be trained to identify when parents are mentally unstable. It's not that hard. Like if you take the time to sit down and observe and have a few conversations with them, I'm pretty sure you could figure it out.
And I think that's the problem. They just didn't take the time to find out. During this time, the two fathers of Brewer's children took her to court for custody, claiming she was mentally ill, neglectful, and abusing drugs. If she was suffering from a mental illness, self-medicating with illegal drugs is what she learned from her own mother.
Mommy dearest.
The police were constantly being called when one of the dads would attempt to visit the children. Brewer would erupt with violence, and since she was 6 feet tall and 200 pounds, she could do some damage to these men.
Wait, she was 6 feet tall and 200 pounds?
Yes, she was a formidable opponent. The judge put in place orders of protections for all three parties that were involved. Things really went downhill when Leatrice was then fired from her job. Family members begged her to let the children live with them. Visitors to Leatrice's apartment found the children left home alone. The neighbors noted that the oldest child, Jewel, had taken over the bulk of the day-to-day caring for her brothers. She was responsible for feeding them, changing their diapers, while Leatrice could be found in a neighborhood bodega drinking 40-ounce beers. On February 24, 2008, Leatrice was upset that 2 days before, DeMazu told caseworkers that Leatrice had threatened to kill her children. Caseworkers made a visit, but left when she didn't answer the door.
So what, they just left? They didn't come back?
Nope, they did not come back. They just kept on walking to the next house.
I guess their shift was over.
4 a.m. that Sunday morning, Leatrice woke her 6-year-old daughter, Jewel. She told her that it was time for her to go. She then pulled out a knife from her kitchen and slit her little girl's throat from ear to ear. After doing this horrific act to her daughter, she then placed her back in bed.
Oh man, that's messed up.
It gets worse. Leatrice then walked into her bathroom, turned on the water, and as the tub was filling, she turned her attention to 2-year-old Innocent Jr. who was sleeping. She picked him up out of his bed and placed him in the water, holding him down until he drowned. Leatrice then took little Innocent and placed him back in bed with his sister. Leatrice then woke up 5-year-old Michael, walked him into the bathroom, and held him under the water until he drowned. Hearing her brother's screams for help, Jewel, who was near death from her own wounds, made it to the bathroom to try and help her brother while he was struggling to survive. Leatrice was able to overpower her weakened daughter and drowned her in the bathtub as well. With her children now deceased, Leatrice removed them from the bathtub and placed them all in her bed. She then decided to complete suicide, by swallowing a bottle of aspirin and drinking bleach and laying down in the same bed with her deceased children. Unfortunately, Leatrice woke up the next day.
Very unfortunately.
Realizing she was still alive, Leatrice then tried to kill herself by jumping from her second-story window, landing on the grass below.
Wait, so she jumped out the second floor window and landed on the grass?
Yes.
That was not much of a suicide attempt.
No, it wasn't.
There's no way that was killing her. That wouldn't kill me, much less kill her.
She's already 6 feet tall.
Yeah,
So
200 pounds. Yeah.
So
she might have like twisted an ankle or something.
But she's not.
Or blew her knee out, but she's not going to die.
The neighbors saw her laying outside and they called an ambulance to pick her up. When the police responded to her house, Leatrice confessed to killing her children. She stated that she killed her children to protect them from voodoo and evil spirits. On February 9th, Leatrice pleaded not guilty by reason of mental disease and defect. Nassau County Judge Berkowitz accepted this plea based on the results of 2 psychiatric evaluations that stated that at the time of her children's murder, Leatrice was suffering from a major depressive disorder with psychotic features, including hallucinations and paranoia. The report states at the time, Leatrice understood she was killing her children, but thought she was saving them from voodoo.
I call BS on that one, too. There was no voodoo. She was just mad at the dads for calling the caseworkers on her.
Yeah, I believe you, too, because there was nothing mentioned about voodoo before.
All of a sudden, that trial is voodoo.
Now, all of a sudden, it's voodoo.
Yeah, they came up with that.
Leatrice was sent to the Mid-Hudson Forensic Psychiatric Center in New Hampton, New York. The fathers of her children were deeply disappointed with this verdict. They believe Leatrice showed no remorse for killing her children, and Nassau County prosecutors just wanted a speedy end to this case to avoid exposing the lack of response and negligent work of the CPS department.
I can believe that.
Both fathers filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Nassau County CPS and the Department of Social Services.
As they should.
On March 2nd, all 3 children were buried in a single white coffin. Jewel had her arms wrapped around her baby brothers. Leatrice told her grandmother after the murders that the voices took control, and she had to do it.
It's absolutely tragic. They should have put her in jail for life.
No, they should put her under the jail.
True.
Now, this is where our labor tale starts.
What do you mean? How could that be?
Believe it or not, Kevin, in 2013, 5 years after this tragic incident, Leatrice gave birth to her 4th child.
You got to be kidding me. How? By who?
It turns out Leatrice became pregnant during her incarceration at the psychiatric center.
Oh my God.
She claimed the father was another inmate, but side note, the rumor at the time is that one of the facility's workers was actually the father of her baby. I seriously doubt a psychiatric center for the criminally insane just has their patients running around having sex with each other. I'm sure they have things in place to prevent this from happening. So
you'd be surprised. I wouldn't put it past them.
I don't know.
You'd be surprised.
I choose to believe the rumors. I think it was probably a worker.
I don't doubt that either, but I don't doubt that the patients are able to have sex, like, you know.
Well, shouldn't they be locked up?
It depends what they're in there for. Like, they have, like, common areas that they, like, all go sit in and watch cartoons and shit.
Well, then they should be watched very closely.
I mean, they should be.
They're criminals. So this is where I come in. I was working on the labor floor the day that they informed us that this child murderer was going to be our patient.
What? Are you kidding me? She came to your hospital?
She came to our hospital.
Wow.
But before I get into the story, I do have to state that due to the HIPAA laws that protect a patient's medical information, I cannot disclose details of Leatrice's hospital stay with us. I'm no longer a bedside nurse, but such information is still protected under the law. The information I do provide for this podcast has already been made public in news reports. For example, Kevin, if a celebrity comes and delivers with us, we're not allowed to say anything to our family members or other co-workers unless the celebrity decides to release the information in the press. When Scarlett Johansson delivered with us, I'm a big fan of hers. I couldn't say anything until the information was released, which was months later. The child was practically walking by the time she announced that she delivered.
Oh, wow. So you delivered the Black Widow's baby?
I wish. No, remember, I'm not a bedside nurse anymore, but I was there and I got to see her. I'm a huge Avengers fan. Anyway, I was working on the labor floor today. They informed us that Leatrice, the admitted child murderer from Long Island, was going to be our patient. And, being from Long Island myself, I was well aware of her story and how she tragically ended the lives of her 3 kids. I was absolutely dumbfounded as to how this evil woman who killed 3 of her children was given the privilege of becoming a mother again. There's so many more, women out there that deserve to be mothers and would never even think of doing anything so evil. And here she is given this privilege again.
Right.
She arrived with transport in a wheelchair, chains hung from her arms and legs. And she was still, a very large woman.
Of course she was still a large woman. 6 feet tall and goddamn 300 pounds. She's a wrestler.
With her being as large as she was, add to that this wild hair, this crazy look in her eyes. I mean, it just sent chills up my spine when I saw her. It was like they were rolling Hannibal Lecter through the hallways. The staff was so terrified of her. But we couldn't let that stop us from doing our job. We are healthcare professionals.
Okay, so how do you take care of patients from prison?
So generally, these patients always have at least 2 armed guards with them, one of them being female since it is labor and delivery floor. They are cuffed to their beds, and if they have leg shackles, we usually remove them so that we can safely deliver their baby.
Okay.
Leatrice had a baby boy that was full term and healthy. They let her hold him, which was extremely stressful for the staff. We could not deny her, though, the privilege of holding her baby. But we didn't know she would attempt to hurt this child as well, so we were on high alert.
Understandable.
News sources did say that the child was eventually placed in foster care. Thank God, though, she wasn't with us that long. This being her 4th child, she delivered quickly and was transferred back to her facility the next day. In December 2013, the fathers of the murdered children won a $350,000 settlement against Nassau County Child Protective Services.
$350, that's nothing.
I know, for losing 3 kids.
For 3 kids?
That amount doesn't seem nearly enough. Just another example of how Black lives are so devalued. The state probe found that the caseworkers missed the clear signs of abuse and should have made repeated attempts to see their children the day before the murders, when their dad had issued those complaints saying that Leatrice had threatened their lives. Since Leatrice was found not guilty due to mental illness for murdering her children, her lawyer filed a lawsuit requesting part of the settlement that the fathers were given.
What?
Yes.
Yo, she is such a piece of shit. Or her lawyer's a piece of shit, or both of them is a pile of shit. Because she attempted to profit from killing her kids.
Yes, she did.
I agree with the father.
How low can you go?
That's crazy. And what are you going to do with money when you're in a psych ward? Like, I agree with the father. She showed no remorse at all. Is it possible she could receive the money?
Well, since she was found not guilty, the Sum of Sam law, that's the law requiring that criminals don't profit from their crimes. It doesn't apply to her because she was found
not guilty. Oh my God.
But in the event that she was awarded any money, the state had filed a $1.2 million lien against Leatrice for all of the psychiatric counseling and services that she's been receiving since her request.
Oh, at least that's smart. She shouldn't receive a dime. But how are they going to give the fathers $350, but they're going to sue her for 1.5?
I know,
right?
right?
That don't make no sense.
It really doesn't. Fortunately, surrogate court judge McCarthy agreed with you, Kevin. He ruled that Leatrice's attempts to collect any money was repugnant and indecent. Leatrice recently stated she just wants to get out of the hospital and live a good life. Hopefully that won't be happening anytime soon.
Hopefully.
She undergoes evaluations every 2 years, but mental health officials say, given the nature of her crimes and her mental diagnosis, she realistically will never be released, at least not anytime in the foreseeable future.
Yeah, no, she should never be released. There should not even be an option.
It shouldn't. So what's your thoughts on this case, Kevin?
I think CPS failed. They did nothing to help these kids. The dads had no rights, even though they cared.
Yeah, these are fathers that actually tried to be there for their kids and care for their kids.
Yeah.
And they were giving absolutely no help whatsoever. And they just left them in the care of this woman who has a history of neglect. They had 9 complaints against her, Child Protective Services.
Right. It's like, how many do you need?
How many do you need?
It's ridiculous.
And I'm not saying she didn't have some mental illness. I'm sure there was something underlying there. But I honestly feel, based on her history, she killed those kids because she was upset with the dads.
Yeah.
And she wanted to hurt the dads. It had nothing to do with voodoo.
No, there was no voodoo. Her and her lawyer came up with that as her defense
And
for
even
her insanity plea.
And even when researching this case, if you look at her photographs before she got arrested and after she got arrested, it's like this photo right here, which I'll post on our social media websites. In these photos, you could tell this one, she's trying to purposely contort her face to look crazy.
Yeah, trying to look crazy.
And look at this one after she leaves the courtroom from trying to get the $350,000 from her kids.
Looking like a suburban housewife.
She looks like a suburban housewife.
With her bowl cut. Wait till y'all see these pictures. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
And of course, here's a picture of her 3 little angels.
Oh, man. I can't believe she slit that girl's throat.
I know. After Jewel tried to save her brothers, I mean, she didn't die initially. You would think she would show some mercy and let that little girl live.
Wow.
How could you hate your children that much? And I'm sorry, her suicide attempt was pure BS.
Nah, that was straight BS.
I looked it up. Her height and weight, she would need to take 3 bottles of aspirin to have an overdose.
Wow. And she took 1?
I don't even think she took the full
not
bottle.
Even a full bottle. And then she chased it with a little bleach.
Exactly.
And that's the whole thing. Like, if you would have really drank bleach, like really drank it, it would have burned a hole in your stomach. Clearly, she didn't drink enough.
I mean, she could have just slit her own wrist too, just like she slit her daughter's, throat. if she really wanted to kill herself.
She didn't want to kill herself.
You know, we said in the beginning of this story, she was overwhelmed with being a mother and didn't realize what it took. And she really took that anger out on the fathers because they were not with her. Even though they were there for the kids, they were not with her. And I really think she had pent up animosity about that and took it out on the children.
Having kids to try to keep a man type of thing, and it didn't work.
So then now
she hates the kids because now she's stuck with them.
Mm-hmm. And she thinks she's getting out of jail one day. But the thing is, when you're found to be sane after committing a crime, I think they can take you back to the real jail at that point for you to serve out your sentence or maybe get resentenced.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. I'm not sure how that works.
But I think in her case, she should never see the light of day.
No, not at all. Because if she gets out, she could potentially try to have another kid.
Exactly, have more babies, and she ends up with us again.
Clearly, she already did have another one, so she's clearly
able to,
and not responsible, I guess you could say. Mm-hmm. But yeah, she could clearly get out and have another kid, so she should never get out.
Well, that's it for episode 5 of the Stirrup podcast. Please look out for episode 6 coming soon. And don't forget,
those red flags could equal toe tags.
They could. Please be safe out there, everyone.
Peace.
You can find the Stirrup podcast on all major podcast platforms. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube page and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. If you're a soon-to-be parent looking for a childbirth education or newborn care class, please check out our website at www.mindbodybabynyc.com.